What is going on, everyone? My name is Jason, and this is the Google Pixel 4a versus the new iPhone SE. Okay, so given that 2020 hasn't been the greatest year, probably the understatement of the century, you may be more inclined to go with a budget phone for your next upgrade in order to save some of that hard-earned money in these shaky times. And if that's the case, you're in luck because one good thing that came out of 2020 are some amazing budget phone options. You had the very popular $399 iPhone SE that dropped back in April, a fantastic phone that really shook up the budget market, and now you have the new $350 Google Pixel 4a, the successor to the Pixel 3a, arguably the first phone that significantly redefined what a budget phone could be. Well, today I'm going to be doing a comparison of these two budget options, going over the strengths and weaknesses of both, and at the end I'll go over which phone I think is better, all in an effort to help find out which one is better for you. Now before we get into the review, if you're into checking out the latest consumer tech products before you buy them, or if you're just a tech head like me, I make a video like this every single week, so make sure to hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe so you can be the first to know when a new JSL review is out and you don't miss anything. And quick question for you guys. Now before I get into my opinion on this, which phone do you guys think is better? The new iPhone SE or the Pixel 4a? Curious to get your thoughts. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Okay, first up, let's talk physical design. Now when it comes to size, both are fairly compact phones, especially for 2020 standards. The Pixel 4a is slightly taller and just a tad bit thicker, but it's fair to say that both feel great in the hand for one-handed use, and in many ways it's a welcome change of pace from the bigger phones that dominate the smartphone landscape. When it comes to build material, Google does get a lot of its cost savings here, as the body is made out of plastic as well as the frame, making for a much lighter and less premium feeling phone in the hand. That being said though, I'm honestly fine with that. The all black matte finish with the mint green home button contrast makes this phone look really sleek, and I like that Google continues to make the Pixel a phone that's more rugged and utilitarian in nature. The new iPhone SE on the other hand is on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Despite being the cheapest iPhone available, Apple did not hold back with the SE when it comes to build material. It has the same glass-on-glass aluminum frame as the way more expensive iPhone 11, and as to be expected, the execution and finish on the new SE is best in class. The glass on the front and back seamlessly melts into the frame, and holding it in your hands after holding something like the Pixel 4a is just a night and day difference. And though I do appreciate the look of the blacked out Pixel, the black SE is on another level. It's incredibly clean and polished, but at the same time aggressive and stealthy with this ultra clean design. Plus the new SE is IP67 dust and water resistant, which is incredible to have at this price point, and testament to Apple's commitment to quality. Overall, both phones look great and are great in terms of dimensions, but when it comes to physical design, it's a pretty easy win for the SE. It's really in a different class when compared to the Pixel 4a. Okay, next let's talk about one of the most important parts of both phones, their displays. The new iPhone SE is equipped with a 4.7-inch LCD Retina display, coming in at a resolution of 1334 by 750, making for a pretty paltry 326 pixels per inch. Now if the sub 1080p resolution wasn't enough, it's flanked by a massive forehead and chin, not only making this one of the smallest displays likely on any phone offered in 2020, but also making the entire device itself feel inescapably dated. Now specs aside, the resolution honestly doesn't bother me, but the 4.7-inch size does get to me. I'm so used to phones having a much better screen to body ratio, and even though using this phone is extremely easy, it's just not as immersive and ultimately not as enjoyable. In contrast, the Pixel 4a is much more aligned with 2020 display standards. It's boasting a 5.8-inch OLED display, coming in at a resolution of 2340 by 1080, making for around 443 pixels per inch. And man, it destroys the SE here. The colors on this display come off more vibrant, you get way better contrast as you get those inky blacks, it supports HDR content, and most importantly, Google finally went with a full edge-to-edge display, and they did a really good job. It's immersive, and it's like a perfect pairing for its smaller dimensions. It's still great for one-handed use, but content consumption is still extremely enjoyable with this pleasing screen-to-body ratio, and really, the SE just can't compete here. It makes the Pixel 4a look way more modern, and in many ways, it makes up for the cheaper material it used on the physical design. Okay, next, let's talk about performance and some of the key features on both phones. When it comes to processors, no doubt one of the biggest selling points in favor of the iPhone SE is its use of the extremely powerful A13 Bionic chip, the same chipset used in the flagship 11 Pro models. And as to be expected, the SE performs incredibly well. Everything is buttery smooth, there's seriously not a single stutter in loading apps, navigating around the UI, spec-intensive gaming, and taking advantage of demanding camera features. The Pixel 4a in comparison is equipped with the Snapdragon 730, a mid-tier processor from Qualcomm that no doubt helps keep the price of the 4a low. And look, it's not a bad processor. Things on the 4a run relatively smooth when it comes to loading apps and UI navigation, and even spec-intensive gaming is okay. It's not going to be as smooth as the SE, and you'll see lags when it comes to image processing, but nothing that I would say completely disrupts the user experience. Here's the thing though, The real elephant in the room for the Pixel 4a in terms of performance is longevity. There's no doubt that the iPhone SE will last comfortably for years, even after multiple software updates, something I'm not confident I can say would be the same for the 4a, considering the way it's powered. We'll have to wait and see with that one, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. Now when it comes to battery life, the Pixel here has an edge. It's rocking a 3140 mAh battery, way larger than the battery on the iPhone SE, and though I could get through a day of moderate use on both phones comfortably, on days of heavy usage, the battery on the Pixel performs better. When it comes to base storage, it's another win for the Pixel 4a, as it comes with 128GB of storage standard, while the base model SE comes with a very low for 2020 64. Now when it comes to biometric security measures, both use their tried and true fingerprint sensors. To me, they're both best in class in my opinion. The big difference here is that the SE has its fingerprint reader in the front. It makes it easier to use this way, and it integrates well into the functionality of the UI, but you do pay for it with that massive chin. The Pixel 4a's is on the back, way less intrusive and still easy to access. Just a small gripe here, whatever coding Google used for the body of the phone makes the fingerprint reader harder to ID. I wish they had left that part of the phone a different texture. Okay, so when it comes to overall performance, it's pretty clear that the iPhone is going to crush the Pixel 4a when it comes to spec related tests, and you will have a super enjoyable, high performing user experience with that phone. You'll have a great experience with the Pixel 4a as well, but as software updates, image processing, apps, and games all get more advanced, it'll have a harder time keeping up. But the Pixel does better with user features, and at the end of the day, it's likely going to come down to what your preferences are. Okay, last up, let's talk about the cameras, and let's start with the front-facing cameras. The SE has a 7-megapixel f2.2 selfie camera, while the Pixel 4a has an 8-megapixel f2.0 selfie camera. The specs are very similar, but the way they go about processing their images is quite different. So first of all, they both do an outstanding job with selfies. We're talking crazy good, and without a doubt, top 2 at this price point. They're sharp, colors are vibrant, dynamic range is fantastic, and both do a stellar job with portrait selfies. The major difference between the two is the color science. When looking side by side, the selfies coming out of the iPhone SE are a tad more saturated. Take a look at the color of my shirt and my mask and you'll see what I'm talking about. And the selfies coming out of the Pixel look to be prioritizing more of a balanced image when it comes to exposure. Not sure if that's also causing the Pixel to be more aggressive with face smoothing, but it does do more artificial beautifying between the two. Plus, the SE tends to have a bit of a warmer, more true to life color temperature, while the Pixel majority of the time goes with the cooler, more muted temp. Again, it's really going to come down to what your preferences are, and both do an amazing job here, but to me the SE does a slightly better job with skin tones, and I'm going to give it a slight edge over the Pixel. Now when it comes to the cameras on the back, it's a very similar story. The SE has a single 12-megapixel f1.8 wide-angle camera, while the Pixel 4a has a single 12-megapixel f1.7 wide-angle camera, and the similarities and differences are very much the same. Both do an outstanding job generally speaking. They honestly can be argued as having the best camera quality on any phone right now, and the differences really come down to color. You're getting punchier colors coming out of the SE, and better accuracy overall, but the Pixel does a better job managing highlights and toughly lit shots, again prioritizing dynamic range, and maintains that slightly cooler color signature. Where the Pixel dominates with its rear camera is its ability to leverage night sight, allowing it to take way better pictures in the dark, as the SE is lacking its night mode feature. But when it comes to video, it's Apple by a mile. The Pixel can shoot 4K video at a locked 30 frames per second, and overall it's a solid good. The video is sharp, and the stabilization is surprisingly solid here. It doesn't do the best with colors though, and it doesn't do as near of a good job with the dynamic range as it does with its still images. The iPhone SE on the other hand can shoot 4K video in either 24, 30, or 60 FPS, and Apple continues to crush it with video quality. Videos come out razor sharp, the colors are saturated, the autofocus and stabilization is class leading, and the dynamic range is incredible. It's pretty nuts how good the SE can be as a video camera. It's legit up there side by side with the iPhone 11 Pro, which means that it's far exceeding expectations at this price point, and really there is no close second place here. Overall, I personally think that the Pixel 4a does a slightly better job with still images, but it's really close, and if you pair in video shooting capability, to me the SE is a better package overall. Okay, so at the end of the day, which budget phone is ultimately the better buy? The Pixel 4a or the new iPhone SE? So you really can't go wrong with either of these phones. They bring an incredible amount to the table, but if I have to choose, I'm gonna go with the iPhone SE. Yes, it has a dated design, and the display pales in comparison to the Pixel 4a, but it's really hard to compete against when it has a premium build, flagship features like wireless charging and an IP rating, a proven processor that will ensure long life, and cameras that are best in class. At the end of the day, the SE is an amazing value for $399, and it's going to be difficult for anyone to beat. That being said though, I will say that the Pixel 4a is close, and it's an outstanding phone in its own right. But hey, that's just me. Which phone do you think is a better budget device? The Pixel 4a or the new iPhone SE? Let me know down in the comments down below. Okay, that's about it for this review. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you guys find it useful, it really helps me out. If you guys have any questions about the Pixel 4a or the iPhone SE, leave them down in the comments and I'll be sure to get to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.